Hello, I'm back doing our herb feature for the month. It's July and it's very much the middle of winter here in Australia, but it's a hot day. As you can see, I've got my hat on. I tend to get burnt on the head a bit. Don't know why that is. I don't seem to get burnt on the skin very often, but certainly my head gets attacked by the sun. I guess because it's the most exposed part. So I generally wear a hat when I'm going to be in the sun for a long period. It is good also to get the sun on your bare skin as well, so I don't always wear one, but if I'm going to be out for longer than sort of 10 minutes, I tend to wear one. But anyway, enough about hats. Today we're going to talk about rosemary. This is a culinary herb usually used in cooking, used to flavour lamb a lot, and used to flavour potatoes. Don't use it for flame. It probably won't burn too well, especially if it's still alive. Rosemary is one of these things that actually does quite a fair bit medicinally as well, but just a warning before you go digging into your rosemary bushes, don't overdo it medicinally, especially if you're on the blood pressure medication or the blood thinning medications and stuff like that. You wouldn't want to dig into it more than a culinary use. Culinary is fine because obviously you're only using sort of a sprig of it here and there rather than using a fair amount of it. It can cause problems for people that are pregnant as well, so do be aware of those things before you go, diving into those bushes and eating it. Externally, as far as I know, there's not really, apart from allergies, any contraindications, I guess is what you'd call it, or any side effects of using it externally as an oil. And smelling it, as far as I know, maybe if you have an allergy it might react, but as far as I'm aware it doesn't have any side effects either. So used internally is just something that you need to be aware of, and using externally and smelling it should give you benefits without any side effects. But obviously I'm not a physician, not even technically a qualified herbalist or anything like that, so take my word with a grain of salt, as they say in Australia, which means that don't take it as gospel. And I certainly don't know everything, but I do know a fair bit dealing with animals and my own issues. So let's dive in now. I'm sitting here in my food forest at the moment. As I said, it's winter, so everything's dormant pretty much, except for a couple of citrus that will survive frosts. I am in the granite belt of Queensland, so cold winters and quite hot summers. That's sort of a bit about our climate. But let's have a look at the plant. I don't think I need to show you how to use it as such. I'm sure you've all seen rosemary and used it. Just take the leaves off and use them in your cooking. You can actually, if you want to get more flavour out of them, put them in some butter and put them in some paper or some tin foil or something, and just heat them up for a little bit, and that'll bring the flavour into the butter, and you can use that for flavour if you want that more intense rosemary flavour. But I tend to just use it fresh or dried. I'll dry it, dehydrate it, and store it like any other herb. It will last a few months. I don't tend to need to do it too often because it will grow all year round here. It doesn't mind the frost, it doesn't mind the dry, it doesn't mind the heat, it just grows. So yeah, you can pretty much grow this anywhere as far as I know in Australia. I don't know about its capabilities in snow, but I imagine that it would be fine. But definitely we get to below 6 here, 6 degrees Celsius that is. So yeah, it should survive pretty much anywhere, this plant. It's drought tolerant. It will tolerate boggy soils if it has to. It doesn't particularly like them, but it will still grow. And it doesn't seem to care about the pH or anything like that. It's a very easy plant, and we'll get into that, how to grow it and all that sort of stuff in a second. But yeah, alright, let's flip the camera around and show you the plant. A plant that I actually just planted not that long ago from a cutting, and it's really, really easy. I just simply took the cutting, my shadow's there in the shot a bit. I simply just took the cutting and took the leaves off it, left the leaves on the top of course, but took the leaves off sort of until the top and stuck it straight in the dirt. You don't get much simpler than that, and you know, it's really, really easy. It doesn't need much feeding or anything like that. I mean, obviously this is highly nutrient soil here, but it will grow in, you know, just your normal garden soil. Just, you know, cut it off the plant a fair size bit, because it will take a little while to grow, and you know, about that size that's in the ground there, and just stick it in the ground. Take the leaves off, stick it in the ground. Can't get much easier than that to grow rosemary. Now the benefits of rosemary, you can use it infused in oil. Normally it's a cold pressed olive oil, and put it on your sore bits, so your joints, you know, all sorts of swelling. You don't want to put it on cuts or anything like that, but sort of closed wounds, if you like, you know, broken bones or any of that sort of internal injury. You can put it on that, and it actually has a numbing effect, and I find it really, really helpful, especially when I broke my pelvis. It was in the hemp cream that I use, hemp seed oil cream. Oh, oil it is actually, it's now a cream, it was an oil. It was extremely helpful in the recovery of my broken bones there, because it does have that numbing sensation. And yeah, so you can use it for arthritic stuff, you can use it for anything that's internal basically. Like, you don't want to use it on cuts and things like that, but certainly your internal injuries like bones and arthritis, well, arthritis isn't an injury, but same sort of thing, torn muscles, all that sort of stuff, it certainly will help to alleviate the pain and the swelling. It is anti-inflammatory as well. Internally it can be used medicinally, but please consult someone before you do that, because you don't want to overdo it, like I was saying. So you could use it as an infusion, you can use it as a tea, you can use it obviously in your food. There's all sorts of ways that you can use this plant internally, as far as flavouring things, and also as a tea, as I was saying. And the benefits of that are, for asthma sufferers, it's very good for the lungs. It decreases inflammation in the lungs. It's also very good for digestive system, because it does have that sort of the bitters, as they say. Very good for the liver, cleansing the liver, but don't overdo it, because it can cause problems for the kidneys and things like that if you do overdo it. I don't like saying that too much, because then it seems to scare people. Don't be frightened of it, but just be aware that you don't want to overdo it, because you know, you get your overdoers and your underdoers. So your overdoers just, you know, they think more is better, and they, you know, like with comfrey and things like that, they just keep taking more and more, thinking it's going to be doing them good when it's actually not. And then you get your underdoers that are frightened of the plants because they're told to be, and that they do all these nasty things, which they do if you're an overdoer. So don't be an underdoer or an overdoer. Don't be frightened of the plant, but also be aware of the strength of these things. It has been said to have some antimicrobial properties, which also you need to be aware of. They're great for getting rid of viruses and things like that. However, they will kill good microbes as well. So your microbes are like your what do you call those things? I hate this. I need to smell some rosemary and I might work my brain again. Anyway, all your good, like bacterias and things like that, are microbials. So you just want to be careful about that as well. But it's not a very strong antimicrobial, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that unless you're an overdoer. And then I'd be more worried about the other contraindications of this herb. But you know, as a culinary use, it's not really going to hurt you, because you're not going to be eating enough of it. Even if you have it every night, you know, on your potatoes or whatever, you're not going to be ingesting enough to worry about it. But yeah, a lot of people have the teas and things like that for lungs and inflammation and it does help with sleeping apparently, and the antimicrobials a little bit. It's not very strong, as I said, but it does have that property in it as well. There's actually a really good article which I'm going to post the link to in this video, by Wildwood, which is they've got like a centre where you can go, and a lifestyle centre basically, and you can go and eat good food and have good therapies and stuff for different diseases in America. I haven't actually heard of them in Australia, but they do put out some good articles anyway, so I'll link that article, which basically sums up all that I know about the plant as well, but probably in a better articulation than my strung together words. But anyway, I will post that as well, just for your information. And smelling it is also a use, or a way you can use it. It's said to increase the function of the brain and help people with things like dementia and that sort of stuff as well. So you certainly just rub it and it will release its smell. That's also said to help with allergies and things like that. I don't really have any allergies. My brain doesn't work very well, obviously. But yeah, I find it does help with concentration, and it's really good to actually have a plant in a pot, maybe in your office or something like that, if you're a office worker, and using that during the day just to keep your focus happening. It really does make a difference to me anyway, and I imagine it would to other people as well. So yeah, there's not really any limitation to smelling it. I don't think there's any that I know of. There's no side effects of smelling too much rosemary. It's not going to get you high or anything like that. It just seems to have some sort of essential oil type effect, and there is an essential oil, a rosemary oil, that you can get as well, but I find just using the plant is just as effective, if not more effective, than using the oil as a smelling use. Probably using the oil, well, definitely using the oil as a anti-inflammatory, external anti-inflammatory is a better use for that oil. But yeah, for smelling it, I think just have a plant, and they're so easy to grow. If you know someone with one, just go and take a cutting and stick it in the ground. It doesn't get much easier than that. So that's rosemary, and I'm sorry I rambled a bit, and the trucks in the background. Noisy trucks in the background. I do actually live just on the edge of town, so I'm on the highway, so we've got cars going by all the time. But this is our little oasis here in the food forest. At the moment it's a bit bare because everything's gone to sleep for the winter, but next year, or well, the end of the year I should say, when we go into spring and summer, it will definitely liven up a lot more, and I might do a tour of that if you would like. But anyway, that's rosemary. It does flower. It has some really good benefits as far as insects go. It seems to make the bad ones not particularly want to be around it because of the smell, I assume. But the beneficials, the bees and stuff, they love it. I've even got bees on my one. I've got a big plant up in the raised beds that I've actually took this plant off, and it's full of bees in the middle of winter, so that's pretty unusual in these parts. But yeah, definitely the beneficials love the flowers, and the not so beneficials, or the undesirables, they tend to avoid it. So it does a lot of good things for the garden as well. So that's rosemary.